Hello everyone, thanks for stopping by my lab today. I'm Professor Walnut, and for today's video, let's talk about that new trailer. We got a ton of new information, from just general character stuff to information on the new battle mechanic and new Pokemon. Because I'm the most fascinated by it, I'm going to talk about the new mechanic first, and we'll go from there. But before we start, if you're new here, welcome. Please consider subscribing. I'm going to keep on talking about Pokemon stuff, including whenever we get new Scarlet and Violet information. I'm also thinking about expanding my content when Scarlet and Violet come out. Regardless of if you want to subscribe though, hit like if you like the video. That does help me out a lot too. Finally, leave a comment below with your thoughts about the new trailer. Okay, let's get into it. The new mechanic is known as the Terrastal Phenomenon. There's a lot of confusion going on about how it's supposed to work based on what we saw in the trailer, but the official site has a lot of the information we need. So to help out, I'm going to give a more comprehensive breakdown here. First of all, when a Pokemon terrastalizes, it becomes crystalline with a Terra jewel over its head, which is stylized to indicate the type of terrastalization. And what I mean by that is that each Pokemon in the new region, Paldea, has what's known as a Terra type. This is a single extra type a Pokemon has potential access to, and from what I can tell, it can be any one of the 18 types on any individual Pokemon. When a Pokemon undergoes the terrastalizing transformation, it loses the types it normally has and becomes its Terra type instead. For example, a single type Pokemon will lose that one type and turn into the new type, but a dual type Pokemon will also lose both of the original types, then turn into the single type. In the process, it gains the same type attack bonus of that type, or stab, as well as all of that type's weaknesses and resistances. It also seems that if you terrastalize into a type your Pokemon already had, your same type attack bonus on those types of moves becomes a little stronger than the usual 1.5 times. How much stronger is not currently clear, but for example, we saw an Azumarill terrastalize into a pure water type, losing its fairy typing in the process, and its water type moves would then be more powerful than they were before. Finally, and importantly, it seems that only one Pokemon can do this per battle, and this transformation will last the duration of the battle, regardless of whether you switch out the Pokemon that is terrastalized. The lore reason behind all of this seems to be pointing to the region just being full of a special energy again, much like Dynamax and Sword and Shield. Pokemon does seem to like to point towards this as just the gimmick these days. It appears we'll be getting an orb to ponder, known as the Terra Orb, which will unlock our ability to use that power. Whether or not this is a key item or something to equip to the Pokemon that you want to be able to terrastalize is unclear. I don't personally think an equip item will be necessary to enable the ability, which means we can still see things like Life Orb Terra Pokemon. From my perspective, it's going to be a lot to handle initially, but I think much like any other format, we'll see certain Terra types on certain Pokemon rising to the top of people's choices because of offensive or defensive synergy. I'm seeing that a lot of people would like an in-game indicator of what Terra type all of your Pokemon and your opponent's Pokemon have, but I personally would guess they don't want to give us that, just to lend the chaotic energy to the battles. For my opinion on it, I think it's going to be fun and interesting to play with and around. I think it'll be balanced by the fact that you can't swap back and forth from the Terra type to your original type or types. And of course that it's only one Pokemon one time per battle, just like Dynamax. It will still be tough to figure out the best defensive moves to cover for all of the possible options, but you may also learn your opponent's Terra types as you play in a best of 3 format and take that information into the next battles. I'm seeing a lot of takes that are saying it's going to be frustrating or broken, but I don't think it's going to be as bad as that personally. At the very least, I think it will be much more tame than Dynamax. I've talked about it before, but Dynamax started out fun, but became a bit obnoxious over time for me, especially now that we're 3 years in. I'm not sure, given what we saw, that I'll have the same feeling about the Terrastal Phenomenon. That said, I admittedly worry a little about how impactful the mechanic will be. Like, people are wondering, will the games let us know what Terra types our opponent's Pokemon have, or will we have to spend each turn until a terrastalization happens, making plays like our opponent's Pokemon could turn into any type? That is a little concerning, but I do feel like it doesn't outweigh the creativity this could bring to team building, and I don't think I'm that worried it'll be too broken if we just don't know our opponent's Terra types beforehand. Ultimately, we'll have to wait until we play in the format to know for sure, of course. Next up, let's talk about the new Pokemon we saw. There were only a few, so this will be relatively short, but they were a lot of fun already. I'm loving the designs in this region so far. First, we'll talk about Satitan. He's classified as the Terra Whale Pokemon, and he's an enormous pure ice type. At 14 feet 9 inches and over 1,500 pounds. It appears to be the signature Pokemon of the region's ice-type gym leader Grusha in the town or city of Glaciado. I'm actually really interested in seeing how gym leaders will use the Terrastal effect, by the way. This Pokemon seems like a single stage to me, but I'll be fascinated to see if I'm wrong about that. Either way, Ice types don't tend to fare well competitively, but Calyrex Ice Rider showed us that if you give an Ice type enough power and defense, it can do just fine. This looks like a strong, chunky Pokemon to me, and I could see it surprising us with its staying power. Besides, maybe all it really needs is to just become something other than an Ice type. Yay, Terrastalizing! Next up, we saw Fido, classified as the puppy Pokemon, though using "the" is pretty generous as there are a number of puppy Pokemon. Either way, this is a fairy type and resembles, well, Doe, as the name would suggest. It has the ability Own Tempo, and I'll be interested in seeing what hidden ability it gets. This thing is very cute. This and Alchemy could own a bake shop together and it would be absolutely adorable and delicious. Information on the site says that it actually puffs its body up to intimidate its opponents, and I don't know about you, but I absolutely do not think that would be intimidating. If anything, it'd just make it even cuter with a side of funny. Finally, we've got a regional form in Paldean Wooper. It's known as the Poison Fish Pokemon, and it is Poison and Ground type with Poison Point and Water Absorb as abilities. Pretty cool abilities and a pretty cool design. I'm really interested in seeing if we'll get a brown version of Quagsire, or if it'll take the Galarian Meowth route and become something that isn't a Quagsire at all. Either way, the information we have about it is actually really fascinating. It's a Wooper that lives on the land coated in a poisonous film, which is all well and cool, but there's a section that mentions that you may see poisoned Pokemon in areas where these Wooper live. They didn't mention anything like that in the trailer, it's just kind of hanging out on the site. It sounds like they're saying that they put some ecological detail into the region of Paldea about how Pokemon interact with each other in the environment, and we'll be able to see effects of those interactions as players. That's a very cool concept, and I can't wait to see how deep they made these interactions. We've talked about so much already, but that's not at all near the end of everything the trailer and the site showed us. Let's talk again about the Legendaries. They showed us the motorcycle forms of Koraidon and Miraidon, which I think everyone absolutely expected. And I gotta say, watching Koraidon turn into a form that has clear wheels and just keep on walking around is hilarious. I've actually changed my choice of game version based entirely on that. He's just a fun derpy dude and I'd love to gallop around on him with his silly wheel designs. However, they also showed us two other forms of the two. There's a water form which allows you to traverse over rivers and lakes, and a sky form which allows you to glide through the sky. It's apparent now that these Pokemon are taking the place of HMs, as has been the trend in the last few generations, and consolidating them into one Pokemon. Likewise, they're taking the gliding concept from Legends Arceus and applying it here, which I think is wonderful. That felt so good to do in PLA. It's seeming more and more that we're going to meet these Pokemon early in the game so that we have the ease of moving around the region quickly earlier on. However, I'm doubting they'll join your actual battle party as early as that. I'm guessing they'll choose to do that during a story event. Either way, I can't wait to go zooming around the region on my lizard, bike, plane, boat. Next up, the raids. One thing I had trouble with in Sword and Shield was how incredibly slow the raids ended up being, with the shields and the move animations if you were online, and all the actions the Dynamax Pokemon could take before you could do anything. It seems like they realized the same thing and decided to take the waiting out. Now you can attack and battle at your own pace alongside 3 other friends or online partners. You'll all be taking actions at similar paces, and you even have the option to cheer to heal yourself and your partners, or boost your team's stats. Not only that, but my other criticism after a while was that there was very little incentive to do mini raids. Sure, you get rewards, but there were other better ways to get those, and yeah, you catch a Pokemon at the end, possibly, but it's just another of a Pokemon that you could get in a lot of other ways, maybe with better stats, but also maybe not. But here in Scarlet and Violet, you can seek out raids specifically to find Pokemon with unique Terra types, so that you can use them in battles. This makes them much more impactful, in my opinion, because you likely won't be able to get those anywhere else aside from trading someone who already has it. The raids here seem fun, exciting, and I'm really looking forward to getting into them. That said, I will say I have one worry here, and that's in the ease of getting certain Pokemon with certain Terra types. Will we just have to grind raids until we find the right one? How long might that take? I do hope they have some sort of method for selecting for Pokemon to appear in raids, because otherwise balancing this with getting the right stats and all that could be a weird barrier of entry when you're trying to make a competitive team. Of course, the raids are just one part of the full co-op experience. We gotta look at 4 trainers just riding their Pokemon together all over the region, and I have to say that just looks so fun. The more they show of it, the more it looks like we're going to have an unprecedented freedom in playing with other people, and I am just so excited to explore it all. Finally, we got additional news about the game's region, story, and characters. You will enroll into a school, either Naranja Academy or Uva Academy, depending on the version you play, according to the website. I think we expected much of that. The academy is apparently situated in the center of the largest city in Paldea, known as Mesagoza. Of course, it appears to be a Pokemon-focused school, because what else would it be, and all age groups can study at the academy. There's a director, known as Clovel, and he apparently is a friend of Sada and Turo. And you've got a homeroom teacher known as Mr. Jacques. It seems he's a bit airheaded, but very knowledgeable about Pokemon biology, and actually developed the Pokedex app for the Rotom phone, which will be making its return here. It's interesting, most Pokemon games have an early game school that you can step into to read about Pokemon types, status effects, and other such things, but this will be the first time that the plot is driven by a school of some sort. It seems that Clovel will be giving the player an independent study assignment known as the Treasure Hunt. The details are vague right now, but it will of course involve embarking across the Paldea region. In addition to the main character's friend Nimona, we also met Arvin, an upperclassman who apparently likes to cook recipes that help heal Pokemon, but isn't very good at Pokemon battles. And Penny, who is shy and somewhat mysteriously doesn't come to the academy very often. She wears a pretty striking Eevee backpack. I think it's pretty obvious the fact that she doesn't show up often will tie into the story in some way, but it's not clear how yet. The last thing I want to talk about here is that both the site and the trailer made a really vague and interesting statement that you'll be able to weave 3 stories together. Obviously one will be the gym challenge, and it's not clear if the treasure hunt includes the gym challenge wrapped up into it or not, but I'm going to guess it might because the site mentions that there's still the gym challenge and quote-unquote 2 other stories that it keeps in the dark, even though it had already talked about the treasure hunt. I am nothing but excited to see if Pokemon is going to put together a compelling and interesting story, or a set of stories, this generation. The site also goes a bit in depth on the gym challenge, and as we thought, there's no linear path through the games. You can go in literally any order you want. Interestingly, it sounds like all gym leaders in Paldea are actually classified as champion rank trainers. The league challenge in this game is instead a journey to get all badges and take a champion assessment, so you can join them as a champion rank trainer yourself. I would personally assume that champion assessment would include something much like the Elite Four, but it's cool to see them swapping up the formula a little yet again. Honestly, story-wise, it makes a lot of sense that in order to be a gym leader, you need to prove your mettle by reaching a high ranking. I'm excited to climb the ranks myself and see what challenges wait on the way. I can't even begin to conceptualize how I'll choose where to go. Maybe I'll just pick a direction and start running. Anyway, that's it, y'all. Everything new we've learned about the upcoming games based on the new trailer and the updates to their website. It's a wild ride, and I've come away even more excited and curious than before. The Pokemon they've shown so far have all been top-notch, and I can hardly wait to see what else is in the region. Thanks for watching all the way here. I hope you've enjoyed. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more stuff like this. I've got ideas for Scarlet and Violet, like a competitive analysis for all the new Pokemon, and possibly even old ones in the new format. Context makes or breaks everything after all, and old Pokemon are going to function differently in the new game's format. Anyway, if that all sounds cool, subscribe and keep an eye out for future videos. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Bye!